What if I told you that the storms outside no longer have the power to move you? That no matter how loud the world rages, no matter how sharp the whispers or how heavy the shadows, you will stand. You will stand, and not only stand, you will stand unshaken. Nobody and nothing will affect you again. Life will test you. It will press against your spirit, sometimes with the weight of mountains. People will doubt you, dismiss you, even try to diminish you. Circumstances will bend you, push you toward despair, and tempt you to forget who you are. But here is why you must stay with me until the last breath of this speech, because there is a truth waiting for you that can change everything. A truth that says your power is not in the hands of others, not in the shifting winds of chance, not in the voices of critics, but in you. And once you see it, once you claim it, you will never again give anyone or anything the authority to disturb your peace, your dignity, your soul. The world has a way of pulling at you, of tugging at your heart and your mind until you begin to believe that what is outside of you can truly define what is within. People may look at you and see only fragments, or they may see only the roles you play, the mistakes you've made, the successes you've had, or the image you project. But beneath all of that, beneath the noise, beneath the surface that others are so quick to judge, there is a place in you that cannot be touched. A place so still, so sacred, so whole that nothing and no one can reach it. That is your center, and it cannot be taken from you. You may have faced betrayal so deep that it shook your faith in love. You may have been abandoned, ridiculed, or misunderstood. You may have endured losses that made you feel stripped bare, as though life had left you with nothing. And yet, even in the darkest hours, something within you remained untouched. You may not have known it was there, but it was. That center, that core of your being, is not dependent on the approval of others, nor on circumstances, nor on how smooth or rough the road of life becomes. It is the part of you that existed before the world gave you a name, and it is the part that will remain when everything else falls away. There are people who will try to make you doubt yourself. They may attempt to diminish you with words, with actions, or with silence. They may want you to believe that your worth comes from how much you can give them, how well you can perform, or how closely you fit their expectations. And if you are not rooted in your center, you will start to bend with every demand, every opinion, every shift in the wind. But when you remember your center, you no longer need to bend yourself out of shape just to be accepted. You can stand in your truth, unshaken, because the core of who you are is not up for negotiation. Life itself can be harsh. It can come with storms so strong they feel like they will break you in half. There will be seasons when the winds howl, when the rain falls hard, when the ground beneath your feet feels uncertain. Yet even in that chaos, the tree that knows its roots remain firm does not fall. You are that tree. Your roots are your center. And though the storm may strip you of leaves, though it may even break a few branches, it cannot uproot the essence of who you are. When you understand this, you stop living as if you are fragile. You stop acting as though every rejection, every disappointment, every criticism is enough to shatter you. No, it may sting, it may hurt, but it cannot destroy you. The center within you is indestructible. It does not answer to the insults of others. It does not shrink when someone turns their back. It does not crumble when the world feels cold. It remains, and it holds you steady even when everything else falls apart. Think of the times in your life when you thought you could not go on. Times when grief seemed unbearable, when heartbreak seemed endless, when challenges felt insurmountable, yet here you are. You kept breathing, you kept rising, you kept moving. Why? because something within you, something deeper than your fear, deeper than your pain, whispered, "You are more than this moment." That whisper was your center. That whisper was proof that there is a strength in you that no loss, no failure, no human opinion can erase. The danger is forgetting. When you forget your center, you start to live like a leaf blown around by the wind. One moment lifted, the next tossed to the ground, entirely at the mercy of the weather. You rise with praise and fall with criticism. You shine with approval and shrink with rejection. But you are not a leaf. You are the root, the trunk, the foundation. And once you remember that, you begin to live from a place that is no longer swayed by the fleeting winds of circumstance. Living from your center means you begin to see life differently. You stop asking, "Why are they treating me this way?" and instead affirm, "Their treatment of me does not touch who I am." You stop pleading for validation and begin affirming your own value. You stop living for applause and begin living in alignment with your truth. That is freedom. That is peace. That is what it means to stand in a place that cannot be taken. Some will say, "But I've been broken. I've been hurt so badly that I don't even know who I am anymore." And to that I say, you have been wounded, yes. You may carry scars, but the essence of you is not destroyed. Pain may have layered itself upon your spirit like dust upon a mirror, but beneath it, the reflection remains. Wipe away the dust, and you will see it. You will see the light that was there all along. That light is your center, and it is yours alone. When you live rooted in your center, you begin to walk differently. You walk with the dignity of knowing that your soul cannot be bought, cannot be sold, cannot be diminished. You carry yourself with a quiet power, not needing to prove yourself, not needing to perform for approval. You stand steady, like a mountain that has seen storms come and go, yet still rises, unmoved, into the sky. This is not to say that life will become easy. Storms will still come. People will still talk. Challenges will still arrive uninvited. But the difference is this: they will no longer move you. They may swirl around you. They may touch the surface of your life, but they cannot reach the untouchable place within you. And when you live from that place, you discover the peace that no circumstance can shatter, the strength that no pain can undo, and the joy that no darkness can extinguish. Nobody can take your center. Nothing can steal it. It is yours, eternal, unshaken, and free. From the time you were a child, voices have tried to tell you who you are. Some told you that you were special, some told you that you were nothing, and some told you that you were only as good as what you could give them. You grew up swimming in the tides of other people's judgments, learning to measure yourself by their approval, adjusting your spirit to fit their comfort, dimming or exaggerating yourself so you might be accepted. And somewhere along the way, you began to believe that their opinion had the power to define your truth. But hear me now. The world's opinion is not your truth. Truth is not a garment someone else can dress you in, nor a label they can stick upon your chest. Truth is the fire inside of you that cannot be contained, the voice that speaks in the silence when everyone else has walked away. It is the steady knowing that lives beneath the noise, beneath the criticism, beneath the applause. And once you recognize it, you will never again surrender your worth to the shifting winds of public opinion. Think for a moment about how often the world changes its mind. One day you are praised, the next day you are ignored. One day you are celebrated, the next you are forgotten. If you anchor your identity to that instability, you will be tossed around like a ship without a rudder. You will feel high when they cheer for you and broken when they turn away. You will be controlled not by your soul, but by the unpredictable moods of others. And the tragedy is that many live their whole lives in that prison, never realizing they hold the key to unlock themselves. What others think of you is simply a reflection of their own mirror. It is painted with their experiences, their fears, their wounds, their desires. They may project greatness onto you, or they may project failure onto you, but in either case, they are not truly seeing you. They are seeing through the lens of themselves. And if you accept their opinion as your truth, you will always live in the shadow of their perception rather than the light of your being. There are those who will tell you that you are too much, too loud, too bold, too different. And there are others who will tell you that you are not enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough, not beautiful enough. If you try to bend yourself to satisfy both camps, you will snap in two. For no matter how much you adjust, someone will always want you smaller, quieter, safer. You cannot win at the game of pleasing others because the rules change with every new face you encounter. The only way to win is to step off that board altogether and choose to live by your own truth. Your truth is not something you create to appease others. It is something you uncover. It is already within you, waiting to be claimed. But to claim it, you must be willing to disappoint some people. You must be willing to hear them whisper, to see them turn away, to feel the sting of their misunderstanding. And when that happens, you will discover something profound. Their rejection does not diminish your truth. It only reveals their inability to see it. Consider the great souls who walked this earth before you. They were not shaped by the applause of the crowd, nor were they broken by its scorn. They listened to the voice within and followed it, even when it led them against the tide of opinion. And though the world may have mocked them in their time, it is their truth that endured, not the world's judgment. Let that be your example. The opinion of the moment fades like smoke, but truth is eternal. You must also guard yourself against the seduction of praise. Just as criticism cannot define you, neither can admiration. If you depend on applause to validate your worth, you will forever be chasing a fleeting sound. Applause is a wave that rises and falls, but your truth is the ocean beneath it, vast, steady, unchanging. Take joy in appreciation, but do not build your identity upon it. If you live for their cheers, you will die by their silence. There will be moments when silence is the world's answer to you, when your efforts go unnoticed, when your gifts are overlooked, when your presence is not celebrated. In those moments, remember, silence does not equal absence of value. Just because the world is not clapping does not mean you are not worthy of the stage. Just because no one names your worth does not mean it does not exist. Your truth does not diminish simply because someone else fails to recognize it. Think of a diamond buried in the earth. Covered by dirt, unseen by eyes, it is still a diamond. Its value is not created when a jeweler polishes it. Its value was always there. You are the same. Whether praised or ignored, whether celebrated or dismissed, your essence remains priceless. When you finally choose to stop living by the world's opinion, something shifts inside you. You walk with a new kind of freedom. You no longer spend your energy trying to convince people of your worth. You no longer silence your voice to avoid their criticism. You no longer chase their validation like a thirsty wanderer chasing a mirage. You simply stand in who you are. You allow your truth to speak for itself, whether they see it or not. And here is the gift of living from that place. When you no longer depend on the world's opinion, you are no longer easily broken by it. Their insults cannot pierce you. Their rejection cannot undo you. Their silence cannot erase you. You become steady, anchored in something greater than their perception. You become like the mountain, majestic whether the sky is clear or clouded. The mountain does not shrink when the storm rolls in, nor does it expand when the sun shines. It remains rooted in its truth, and so will you. The world's opinion will shift with every season, but your truth is timeless. Once you embrace that, you are free. Free to live as you are, free to rise as you were made to, free to walk in the dignity of knowing that no one's voice carries more power over your soul than your own. Pain is one of the most persistent teachers life sends our way. It arrives uninvited, knocks on the door of our being, and sits at the table as though it belongs. It does not ask permission. It does not check your schedule. It simply enters, and when it does, it demands your attention. You cannot ignore it, for it speaks in a language that cannot be silenced. It speaks through your tears, through the tightening in your chest, through the heaviness in your spirit. And when it speaks, you believe it has the final word, but hear this truth. Pain is a visitor, not a master. It may come and sit with you for a season, but it does not own your house. It does not rule your destiny. There is a danger in believing pain is permanent. When you think it is your master, you bow to it. You let it dictate your choices, your outlook, your very identity. You start to say, I am broken, instead of saying, I am experiencing brokenness. You start to believe, I am pain, instead of saying, I feel pain. Do you see the difference? One traps you, the other frees you. Pain is something you feel, not something you are. It may mark your days, but it does not define your soul. Look back on your life. Think of the moments you thought would destroy you. The heartbreak that made you wonder if love was worth it. The loss that emptied your heart until you thought you would never smile again. The failure that made you question your very worth. At the time, you could not see beyond it. It wrapped itself around you like a storm, convincing you it would never pass. And yet, here you are. The storm did not last forever. It came, it stayed for a while, and then it moved on. That is what pain does. It visits. It never builds a permanent home unless you invite it to. But sometimes, without realizing it, we keep setting the table for pain as though it were a permanent guest. We replay the memory again and again. We tell ourselves the same story of betrayal, rejection, or loss until it becomes the anthem of our lives. We rehearse the hurt until it becomes part of our identity. This is how pain moves from visitor to master, by our permission, by feeding it with our attention, by giving it the keys to the house of our hearts. We let it stay longer than it needs to. The challenge then is not to deny pain, but to refuse to make it your ruler. Pain has a purpose. It is not without meaning. It comes to reveal what matters to you, to teach you resilience, to open your eyes to strength you did not know you had. Pain stretches you in ways comfort never could. It breaks the illusions you were clinging to and forces you to confront what is real. It shows you who truly stands with you and who only came for the sunshine. It strips away the masks you wear for the world until all that remains is raw truth. Pain teaches, but like every teacher, it is meant to move on once the lesson is learned. When pain visits, let it teach you. Let it carve wisdom into your soul. Let it sharpen your vision, but then release it. Do not confuse the lesson with the presence of the teacher. You can carry the wisdom forward without keeping the wound open. That is where many falter. They cling to the pain, believing it honors the loss, believing it proves the depth of their love, believing it makes them strong. But strength is not in carrying pain forever. Strength is in knowing when to set it down and walk forward with the gift it gave you. Think of a flame. If you hold your hand over it for a second, it burns you enough to warn you, do not stay here. That is pain doing its job, signaling danger, guiding you to protect yourself. But if you keep your hand in the flame, the fire will consume you. That is not the flame's fault. It is yours for not moving. Pain is like that flame. It alerts, it signals, it awakens. But if you keep holding on to it, you give it power it was never meant to have. There is a quiet dignity in acknowledging pain without bowing to it. You can say, yes, I was hurt, yes, I cried, yes, I fell to my knees, and yet you can also say, but I did not stay there. I did not let the pain decide the rest of my life. That is where your power lies, in refusing to confuse what you feel in a season with what you are destined to become. Pain may color your chapter, but it does not write your whole story. So when pain comes, welcome it as a messenger, not as a ruler. Ask it, what are you here to show me? What must I learn from you? What truth have I been avoiding? Listen closely because it speaks with honesty. It may reveal that you have been giving too much of yourself to people who never honored you. It may show you that you have been living beneath your worth. It may uncover the depth of your love, reminding you that to feel deeply is not weakness, but proof of your humanity. Learn from it, take the wisdom, and then close the door behind it. You are not meant to live in chains forged by yesterday's wounds. You are not meant to walk with your head bowed beneath the weight of sorrow that should have passed. You are meant to rise carrying scars that speak not of defeat, but of survival. Scars are not chains. Scars are proof that pain visited, did its work, and then left. They are marks of resilience, not of ownership. And so I say to you, never mistake the visitor for the master. Pain is not your destiny. It is not your name. It is not your truth. It is simply an experience, a teacher that comes and goes. You, my friend, are greater than your wounds. You are the host, not the guest. You are the master of your own house. And no matter how fierce the pain may feel, it cannot rule you unless you let it. Life will hand you circumstances you never asked for, situations you never dreamed would come to your door, and losses you never imagined you could endure. People will say things you did not deserve. They will walk away when you needed them to stay. They will misunderstand you, judge you, and sometimes betray you. And in those moments, your first instinct will be to fight for control. You will want to shape the outcome, to force the situation, to change what is happening so that it cannot wound you. But no matter how tightly you try to hold the reins, you cannot control the choices of others, nor can you control every turn of life's unpredictable path. The truth is simple and liberating. Your power does not lie in control. Your power lies in response. It is a hard truth to swallow because we have been taught to measure strength by how much we can control. Control the way people see us, control the direction of our relationships, control the timing of success, control the outcome of every step. But life does not bend to our will. The more we clutch at control, the more it slips through our fingers. Yet, there is something you will always hold, something that no force can take from you, the power to choose your response. That is where your freedom lives. Think about the times when something happened outside your control. A job ended unexpectedly. A friend betrayed your trust. A door closed that you had prayed would open. At first, it felt as though everything had been stolen from you, as though your story had been rewritten without your consent. But then, slowly, you discovered something. You still had a choice. You could choose bitterness or forgiveness. You could choose despair or determination. You could choose to remain on the ground or rise again. And in that choice, you found strength. That choice was your power. Control is an illusion, but response is reality. When someone insults you, you cannot control their mouth, but you can control whether their words take root in your heart. When life hands you disappointment, you cannot control the event, but you can control whether it becomes your anchor or your teacher. When grief comes, you cannot control its arrival, but you can choose whether to let it harden you or deepen your compassion. That is the secret of resilience, not the ability to control life, but the ability to respond to it with dignity and courage. Every moment gives you this choice. Someone disrespects you, you can lash out and let anger rule, or you can stand tall, refusing to let their behavior dictate your peace. A dream delays longer than you hoped. You can curse the waiting, or you can use the time to grow, to strengthen, to prepare. Pain visits. You can let it define you, or you can let it refine you. Each response shapes you more than the event itself. The event is only the spark, your response is the fire. There is a freedom that comes with this realization. When you stop trying to control everything, you release yourself from the exhausting burden of managing what was never yours to manage. You no longer waste energy trying to bend people to your will, trying to rewrite the script of life, trying to make others treat you the way you deserve. Instead, you redirect that energy toward what is yours: your words, your thoughts, your choices, your response. And in that shift, you step into your true power. Imagine standing in the midst of a storm. The wind is howling, the rain is falling, and the thunder shakes the ground. You cannot control the storm. You cannot command the sky to clear or the clouds to part. But you can choose where you stand, how you brace yourself, how you protect what matters. You can choose whether you curse the rain or dance in it. The storm has its power, but your response has its own, and often it is greater. When you understand that your response is your throne, you no longer hand it away so easily. You no longer allow every careless word, every slight, every setback to dethrone you. You realize that if peace is to remain within you, it must be protected by your choices, not granted by circumstances. And that means when others bring chaos, you can still bring calm. When others choose cruelty, you can still choose kindness. When others choose to walk away, you can still choose to rise. This is not weakness. This is strength of the highest kind. Anyone can react. Anyone can lose themselves in anger, drown in despair, or be consumed by bitterness. But it takes true power to remain steady, to choose a higher response when everything around you tries to drag you lower. That kind of power cannot be faked, and it cannot be stolen. It belongs to you alone. There will always be moments when control is out of your hands. That is the nature of life. But if you live clinging to control, you will forever be disappointed. If you live rooted in your response, you will forever be free. You will know that no matter what comes, you still hold the pen that writes the ending of your story. The storm may write the first line, but you decide the last. And so, when the world throws its weight upon you, remember this: you do not need control to be powerful. You need clarity, courage, and the choice to respond in a way that honors who you are. That is where your strength lives. That is the kind of power that no betrayal, no disappointment, no loss can ever take away from you. From the moment you entered this world, you have been handed things to carry. Some were gifts, love, guidance, encouragement, but many were burdens, expectations, shame, guilt, unspoken responsibilities. You were told to hold them, to keep them, to walk with them as though they belonged to you. And over time, the weight grew heavier. You began to stoop under it. You began to think the heaviness was just life, that exhaustion was normal, that carrying what was never yours was the price of being accepted. But there comes a moment when your soul whispers a deeper truth. Freedom is refusing to carry what is not yours. You see, many of the burdens you hold did not start with you. They came from voices that told you who you had to be. They came from family wounds passed down through generations, from parents who carried their own pain and unknowingly placed it on your shoulders. They came from friends who leaned on you until your strength was drained. They came from a world that demanded you shrink or perform or give beyond your limits. And because you were kind, because you wanted to be enough, you said yes. You said yes again and again until your arms trembled and your spirit grew tired. But saying yes does not make those weights yours. They were never meant for you to carry. How often have you carried guilt that belonged to another? You blamed yourself for someone else's choices, as if their actions were proof of your inadequacy. How often have you carried shame that was planted by another's wound? You wore it like a cloak, not realizing it was stitched together from lies, not truth. How often have you carried responsibilities that were never yours to hold? You thought being strong meant carrying it all, but strength is not in how much you carry. It is in knowing what is yours and what is not. Freedom begins when you dare to put those weights down. When you finally say, "This pain is not mine to hold. This guilt does not belong to me. This responsibility is not mine to own." At first, it will feel uncomfortable. You will feel the urge to pick it up again because it has been with you so long. It feels familiar. You may even fear that putting it down makes you selfish or uncaring. But here is the truth. You are not free when you carry what is not yours. And no one benefits from you living crushed under burdens you were never meant to bear. Think of a traveler walking down a long road. At the beginning, they carry a small pack with only what they need. But as they go, people hand them bags. One person gives them a sack of stones labeled expectations. Another hands them a box of regrets. Another gives them a heavy trunk of fears. Before long, the traveler is bent over, exhausted, barely moving. But here is the secret. The road does not demand the weight. The traveler simply has to choose what to set down. That traveler is you, and freedom begins when you open your hands and let the weight fall. You cannot heal while holding what is not yours. You cannot rise while bent beneath burdens that were handed to you by others. Healing comes when you say, "I will not be the keeper of other people's wounds. I will not carry blame that was planted in me by those who could not face themselves. I will not drag around shame that was never mine to wear." That is not cruelty. It is truth. That is not selfishness. It is wisdom. And here is the beautiful thing. When you put down what is not yours, you create space to carry what is. You create space for joy, for peace, for love that is not rooted in obligation, but in freedom. You find your hands open enough to carry your own dreams, your own calling, your own truth. You discover that life is not about being weighed down, but about walking lightly enough to rise. You will be misunderstood when you start putting down burdens. Some will say, "You've changed." Some will accuse you of abandoning them because you refuse to carry what they have always handed you. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Their words are just another bag they are trying to place on your shoulders. Do not pick it up. Keep walking. For the ones who truly love you will not ask you to be crushed for their comfort. They will want you free. There is a sacred dignity in saying no. No to what is not yours. No to guilt that was never your responsibility. No to roles you were forced into but never called to fulfill. That no is a yes to your soul. That no is the sound of chains breaking. That no is the beginning of freedom. Imagine what your life would feel like if you carried only what was truly yours. Imagine walking with your head high, your shoulders light, your steps unburdened. Imagine the energy that would return, the joy that would awaken, the peace that would rise within you. That is not a fantasy. It is your birthright. But to claim it, you must lay down what was never yours to carry. And so the invitation is simple but powerful. Look at the weights on your back, the heaviness in your heart, and ask yourself, does this truly belong to me? If the answer is no, put it down, let it go, walk away. It will not be easy at first. You may reach back for it out of habit, but with every step you take in freedom, you will realize something life-changing. You were never meant to live bent over beneath borrowed burdens. You were meant to live free, to walk light, to rise high. Silence is often misunderstood. Too many people mistake it for weakness, for surrender, for the absence of power. They think if you do not respond, you have no voice. If you do not fight back with noise, you have no strength. But silence has always held a deeper kind of authority. It is not empty, it is not passive, it is not defeat. Silence is power refined. Silence is restraint in a world that constantly demands reaction. Silence is the place where your dignity speaks louder than your tongue ever could. There will be moments in your life when you are provoked, when someone's words sting like arrows, when circumstances press you to lash out, to prove yourself, to make noise just to be heard. And in those moments, your silence may be the loudest answer. For silence says, I refuse to hand you my peace. I refuse to play the game on your terms. I will not bow to the noise of the world because I know who I am. That is not weakness. That is strength of the highest kind. Strength is not in always having the last word. Strength is not in shouting louder than the next voice. Strength is in knowing when speaking would only drain you, when answering would only lower you, when engaging would only entangle you in battles that do not deserve your energy. True strength is measured in the ability to stay still when everything around you tempts you to react. There is a reason silence unnerves people. It forces them to face themselves. When you do not meet their chaos with chaos, when you do not mirror their anger with anger, when you do not echo their insult with insult, they are left to hear the emptiness of their own noise. Your silence becomes a mirror, and what they see in it is their own reflection. That is why silence is so powerful. It reveals without you lifting a finger. Think of the mountain. The storm may roar around it, lightning may strike, winds may howl, but the mountain does not answer back. Its silence is not weakness, it is majesty. It stands unmoved, declaring its strength not through noise, but through presence. You are that mountain. Your silence, when rooted in confidence, carries a weight that no words could ever achieve. There will be times when your silence protects you, engaging in every battle, answering every critic, explaining yourself to every doubter. These are chains disguised as victories. Each time you step into that arena, you hand over a piece of your peace. Silence is the shield that keeps you whole. It is the choice to protect your energy rather than spend it proving yourself to those determined not to see you. But do not confuse silence with suppression. True silence is not about swallowing your truth until it poisons you. It is not about burying your voice out of fear. It is about choosing when your voice will have power, about waiting until speaking adds value rather than noise. Silence is not about erasing yourself. It is about preserving yourself. It is about knowing that not every thought deserves to be spoken. Not every battle deserves to be fought. Not every situation deserves your words. When you sit in silence, you discover something profound. You can hear yourself again. The world shouts endlessly, and if you are not careful, those voices will drown out your own. But in silence, your truth rises. Your intuition becomes clear. Your spirit whispers what it has always known, but could not say over the noise. Silence is not emptiness. It is fullness waiting to be heard. Consider the times in your life when silence spoke louder than any words. The silence after betrayal, when no explanation could match the weight of your absence. the silence after disappointment, when your dignity was preserved by your refusal to beg. The silence of your presence in a room when no words were needed to command respect. Those silences carried more power than any speech could have, because silence does not need permission, it simply is. Some will try to misinterpret your silence. They will say you are weak, that you are indifferent, that you are incapable. Let them. Their misunderstanding is not your burden. They cannot comprehend what they have never practiced. They confuse noise with strength because they have never known the discipline of stillness. But you know that silence is not weakness. It is mastery. It is choosing to hold your ground when the world demands you move. In silence, you conserve energy for what truly matters. You are no longer scattering your power in every direction, wasting words on ears that will not listen, wasting explanations on hearts that are already closed. Instead, you gather that power within yourself, and when the time comes to speak, your words will cut through the noise like thunder after stillness, because silence gives weight to your voice. It teaches others that when you do speak, they must listen. Silence is also healing. In silence, wounds can close. In silence, the heart can breathe. In silence, you are not forced to perform or explain. You are allowed to simply be. And in that being, you find strength again. You remember that your worth is not in how loudly you shout, not in how much you prove, but in the unshakable truth of your presence. So do not fear silence. Do not run from it. And do not be ashamed of it. Embrace it. Wield it as the quiet power it is. Let it be your answer when words would only diminish you. Let it be your refuge when the world grows too loud. Let it be your declaration that you will not be moved by noise. Because silence is not the absence of strength. It is its highest form. It is the mark of someone who knows that true power is not in controlling the world's noise, but in mastering their own. And when you master silence, you master yourself. Your spirit is untouchable. That is the truth that cannot be altered. No matter how many storms rise against you, no matter how many voices speak against you, no matter how many losses fall upon your path, there is a part of you that is eternal, unshaken, unbroken. People can take your possessions, they can take your titles, they can even take your place in the world, but they cannot touch the essence of you. They cannot lay hands on the fire that keeps burning, the light that refuses to be put out. Your spirit is beyond their reach. Life will sometimes try to convince you otherwise. The weight of heartbreak will try to persuade you that you have been diminished. Failure will whisper that you are less than what you once were. Betrayal will scream that your worth has been shattered. But in each of these lies is the same illusion, that what has happened outside of you has the power to reach inside of you. Yet nothing on the outside can alter the truth of who you are within. That is where your strength lives. That is where your unshakable essence remains whole. You may have walked through fire and the flames may have scarred your flesh, but your spirit walked out untouched. You may have been buried under the weight of sorrow, yet when you rose again, your spirit rose with you unscathed. What hurts the body, what wounds the heart, what troubles the mind cannot corrupt the eternal part of you. It remains intact, like a diamond beneath the earth, pressed, covered, unrecognized at times, but unbreakable all the same. There will be those who try to define you by your pain. They will look at your scars and decide they know your story. They will point to your losses and say you are less because of them. But your spirit is not a record of what was taken from you. It is not a collection of the battles you have lost. Your spirit is the force that carried you through those battles, The reason you survived when survival seemed impossible, the reason you kept standing when falling would have been easier, that cannot be touched. And when you begin to recognize this, something changes. You stop fearing what people may do to you. You stop shrinking at the thought of failure. You stop trembling when rejection comes. Because even if they laugh, even if they leave, even if they close doors, they cannot close